There was a study done by the California Department of Mental Health, and the results were pretty, well, let me show you what the results were. If you do not have close friends in your life, you are 2 to 3 times more likely to die an early death. If you don't have close friends in your life, you're 4 times more likely to suffer from emotional burnout. You're 5 times more likely to suffer clinical depression, and you are 10 times more likely to be hospitalized for an emotional or mental disorder if you don't have close friends in your life. And again, all of this is rooted in what we believe the Bible teaches, that when God made us, he made us to function only in relationships. Relationship with him and relationship with other people. That's how this works. When we started a series on relationship weeks ago, I showed you this verse. When God created man, man was alone among all the animals, and God looked at it and said, it's not good for this guy to be alone. It is not good. Men and women were not created by God to be alone. Doesn't work. If you try and live in isolation, you will damage yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, in every way, and you will not have the quality of life that God intended for you. And when I started this series, I also started talking about something that Dr. Henry Cloud has talked about in one of his books, one of my favorite authors. He said there are 4 corners that you can live in life, and here's corner number 1. Corner number 1 is you're disconnected. You live life alone. There are people in this, maybe in this room, maybe watching on YouTube, maybe in your life, who live alone. You have no close friends. So all the damage that we're just talking about is being done. You're being affected by that. So then what happens, he says, is that people go to corner number 2. Corner number 2 are bad connections. You're being harmed by these people. When you're around these people, you feel more anxiety, more fear, guilt, shame, bad feelings, a sense of inferiority. This is the outcome of being in a relationship with this. Have you ever wondered, have you ever watched people, especially women, go from one abusive relationship to the next abusive relationship? You ever seen that? They get out of one abusive relationship, they go right into another one. You ever wondered why? It's because when you're living alone, it's more painful than being in a bad relationship. So people choose bad relationships over no relationship. We are not meant to be alone. We weren't created for it. So you see it happen all the time. Then he said what happens is that so many times in America, we settle for the third corner, which are pseudo-good connections. These are your party friends. Let the good time roll. And all of us are friends, and we're like, you know, you hang out, you watch a Packer game together, you do something fun, you go out to eat together. It's just fun. They're just fun relationships. But they are not those aren't the friendships that are going to change your life. He said you got to get to this level. The 4th corner relationships are the ones where your life changes. This is where you get all of these incredible things. And look at the second one from the bottom. Do you see it? Reality-based feedback. We don't get a lot of that. When you're in the 3rd corner with your party friends, they tend not to tell you what's wrong in your life, what they see in your life. But the 4th corner ones are ones who love you enough to say, can we talk? Because your breath is really bad. Or you know, you interrupt me all the time. Or they tell you what they see in your life. They love you enough to say it. This is the group that will change your whole life. We have to move to the point where we have 4th corner friendships, and these relationships are developing in our life because these are the ones that are going to have all the positive benefits, mentally, emotionally, physically, that God created us to experience. And here's the problem with that. Surveys have shown the number of Americans who say they have no close friends, look at the direction it's going. You're not surprised by this, are you? It's tripled in recent decades. It's going the wrong way. 0 is the most common response when people are asked how many close friends they have. And by the way, the number one gender putting down 0, men. This is a society that we live in. Tremendous damage. Oh, by the way, isn't it interesting that as men have no close friendships, and so many have no close relationships, the suicide rate among men continues to climb? I'm sure it's unconnected. We're being damaged because this is the life that we live. And the more technology interferes with friendships, by the way, the worse this is getting. It's not, your Facebook friends aren't real friends. It's not what we were wired for. We need people. So when I was doing this, when I was preparing this series, what I actually thought I was going to be talking about today is how to pick good friends. That's what I thought I was going to talk about. Because if you read the book of Proverbs, over and over again it says, hey, don't associate with this type of person, don't associate with this type of person. So the Bible has a lot to say about who you should be friends with and who you shouldn't be friends with. But when I started writing this message a couple of weeks ago, I thought, I want to go a different direction. Because I believe this. If you want good friends, you have to learn how to be a good friend. So some of you are sitting here and like, yeah, I'd like some closer friendships in my life. Great, then you need to learn how to be a good friend. Because if you learn how to be a good friend, you can have good friends. But if you're not a good friend and you get a good friend in your life, they'll leave you. So you have to learn how to do this. So here's what we want to talk about today. What does it take to actually be a great friend? Because if you become a great friend, you can have great friends. So I want to ask you to grab your notes, grab a pen. There are going to be some important things to talk about today, and some things I'm really going to want you to write down. So please grab those things. For those of you watching on YouTube, if you go into the link below, the message, the little summary, there's a link where you can download the notes and you can watch, you can fill these in as we go through this today as well. So now I apologize. Sometimes if you heard me teach, you know that sometimes I really change what I had planned for the day, and this is one of those days. So. But I know that some of you hate it when I totally skip all the blanks. I don't give you the blanks. So I'm giving you the blanks to the whole first point, but I'm not going to have time to teach on it. So here we go. First thing, if you want to be a great friend, is you're going to learn how to stay close. Great friends stay close. And I'm going to give you this whole first point in about 2 minutes. So here we go. Get ready. This is the litmus test for whether or not you are a great friend or whether you have great friends, is if you want to find out who a true friend is, screw up. Or go through a challenging or overwhelming time and see who sticks around. Isn't that true? You ever screwed up and lost a friend? Ever been through an overwhelming time and lost a friend? Yeah, it's happened to all of us. But again, the point, what I don't want you focusing on is who's done this to you. I want you focusing on who have you done this to. Have you ever been the person who walked away when one of your friends screwed up? Have you ever been the person who walked away when you saw somebody go through an overwhelming time and you just didn't take time to be with them? Friends stay close. And so the first thing I want you to write down is that you have to learn how to be there when they need you, because people are going to need you. If you're going to be a great friend, then when they need you, you're there. When their world falls apart, you show up. When everyone else walks out, you walk in. That's what a great friend does. I just don't have time. Sorry. We're going to go through it. Here are common times when people need you, when they're suffering and in pain. Do you know any friends that are really in pain today? Any people that you know that are really all alone or scared or suffered a great loss in their life? They need you. And friends are there when they need you. All right, second, make time for them. Sorry to go through this quickly, but I wanted to at least give this to you. You got to make time for them. Good friends won't happen by accident. You got to actually intentionally make time for them. And when I was a pastor in Hidden Valley, I talked all the time about join a life group, join a life group, join a life group. And I believe in that. But it's very complicated. You're all busy, and it's hard to do the curriculums. And so there's a simpler way to get started. And I want this in the back of your mind. For those of you sitting here today, I want more friendships. I want to develop more close friendships. I saw a teaching years ago where this guy just picked some couples. He and his wife picked some friends, people they wanted to get to know, and they started having them over. I think it was every other week. So they picked like a Sunday night. And every other week on Sunday night, they got together with these other people, and they did this for years and years. I think it was over 20 years. And they didn't have a formal curriculum that they were trying to study and keep up with. They just got together, and they ate a meal, and they talked about what good things happened in the last 2 weeks, what challenging things happened in the last few weeks. How are you doing today? Just basic things like that. And they built these tremendous, close, fourth corner relationships. One meal at a time. How easy is that? You have to eat anyway. How easy is that to do? You could do that. You just start getting some people together every other week and say, let's just have dinner together. I kind of like you. Now, to know, you may get into it, you may not like them at all, they may not be the right person, so don't say, we're going to do this for the next 20 years. Say, I'm going to do something for the next couple of months. I'd like to have you be a part of it. Would you just give it a try with me? And hopefully they haven't watched this message, because after a couple of months, if you don't invite them back, then they'll know that you didn't really connect with them, all right? So But you just get started with something simple because you will need this. And oh, by the way, they'll need this. The day will come in everyone's life where they will be overwhelmed and they will need close friends and you will need this. All right, so all I have time to teach on this one, sorry, because I really want to live here. Number 2. You want to know what it takes to be a great friend? You want to be a great friend? Then you have to learn this. You have to learn how to love them at all times. Now, I am going to really struggle with this message from this point on because for years and years and years, I was really cynical about this verse. This is actually what the Bible says. A friend loves at all times. Matter of fact, you got your pen, would you underline those last few words? At all times. Have you ever had a friend who loved you at some of the times? They loved you when things were going good, but when you messed up, they stopped loving you. Or when you were in terrible need and overwhelmed and broken, and maybe you could only talk about your pain over and over and over again, they stopped loving you. Tremendous pain. Because it's hard. And we've all experienced what it's like to have people that loved us for some of the times, but not all the times. And again, I don't want your focus to be on who did this to you. That will be the natural part of this message. Think of this another way. Have there been times in your life where you were close to somebody and they went through something, maybe they totally blew it. Maybe they screwed up. Maybe they suffered overwhelming loss and you really weren't there for them. You didn't love them at all times. That's the tougher thing. So let me talk about what I think it means to love someone at all times based on just what I've learned over the last year. First, don't judge them, value them. And communicate to them that they are still valuable to you. That's really what I mean by that. Don't judge them. Communicate to them that they are still valuable to you. You still consider them valuable. So for those of you who haven't heard me teach about judgment, the Bible has 2 things to say about judging. And we get confused about this in the world of Christianity. There's a right judging. In the Bible, it actually says you should judge that situation. And what it means is you should discern whether this is right according to what God would want or wrong according to what God would want. So that's the right kind of judging. That's why the Bible actually talks about times when we should be judging and we're in trouble because we weren't judging. Christians don't get this distinction, though. They see that verse and they're like, well, I got to judge people. No, no, no. Judging situations, judging right from wrong, yes. Judging people, bad. This is where Jesus' ire gets up. In the New Testament, when he got mad, one of the things that made him mad was when Christians started judging other people. So judging means that I look at your decisions in life, I look at where you're at in life, I look at what you're doing, the choices you're making, and I think that you're wrong, and then usually what happens is I put a label over you. Oh, well, you're just a liar, or you're just a thief, or you're just this. And once I put the label on you, I've now judged you, and what happens naturally is your nose goes up. And you're like, yeah, because you're better than them because they have that label and you don't. And once you've started judging people, then the natural thing is you think you're better than them. Because you don't do that. You're not that person. You may do the very same thing, but there's a good reason why you did it, which is just the amazing part. It's what Jesus said. Listen, why are you running around trying to pull specks out of people's eyes when you have a log in your eye? That's the judging thing. What the heck are you doing? Spend the time getting the log out of your own eye, which, by the way, will take the rest of your life, so that you just don't really have time to focus on where other people are screwing up. The judging thing is so condemned in the Bible. We are not allowed to do this. It's not okay. Unfortunately, if you really want to know what it's like to value people and not judge them, I'm going to have to send you to a bar or to a recovery group. The absolute worst place I could tell you to go is the church. It is the worst place in America for judging. If you want to be judged and experience judgment, go to a church. If you want to know what it's like to be valued when you've blown it, go to a bar. Does anyone else think that that's about the stupidest thing you've ever heard? Don't we have that backwards? And it's true. You want to be judged, go to a church. You will be judged. Christians have absolutely no concept of what this is about. There was a woman I was reading about, she was 42 years old. She was a nurse and a single mom, and she was writing about this pain. She said, she lived in Georgia. She said, my church acted like I was a leper when my husband left me. By the way, that leper thing, some of you have felt that way. You've felt people's disgust when they see you, when they look at you. They won't talk to you anymore. That's the judgment in action. They've judged you. You are a leper to them. They don't have to be nice to you, talk to you, anything. That's judgment in action. She said, I'm sure I was no angel, but they made me feel like I could have somehow forced my husband to stay with me if I'd have just been good enough. And now that I think back on it, I suspect they just didn't want to deal with me as a divorced mom. And they didn't want to deal with the reality that someone in their midst could fail at marriage. And welcome to the world of Christianity, where if you blow it or something falls apart in your life, in the moment when people need others the most, what you will get the most is judgment. It's always been this way. I hate to tell you this. You ever read the Old Testament book of Job? If you know the story of Job, you know this is what it was like in the Old Testament. Job lost everything. His children were all killed. Everything he owned was destroyed or stolen. He lost his health. And then as he sat in ashes, scraping his sores, his friends came to visit him. And some of you had friends like Job's friends. And in the moment when he needed them the most, what they came with was judgment. Look at this one example from the book of Job. One of his friends said, think now, who that was innocent ever perished? Or where were the upright cut off? As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. In other words, Job, the reason you're sitting in your ashes and your kids are dead and you've lost everything is because you sinned so bad that God thought he just had to take it all away from you. Now, isn't that an absolutely wonderful thing to hear when you've lost all of your kids? Isn't that just what he needed to hear? This is the world we live in. It's what Christianity has become in so many ways. It is a devastating force. F.B. Meyer was a very famous Christian author who wrote a long time ago, and he said this. He said, when you see a brother or sister fall, when you see them blow it, he said, you have absolutely no reason to judge them for 3 reasons. He said the first reason, oh, wait, I put it in the wrong place. All right, well, it'll show up later, but here are the 3 reasons. First, you don't know how hard they tried not to sin. You don't know that. Second, he said, you have no idea the power of the forces assailed against them. Do you know that Jesus warned Peter, he said, Satan himself is asked to sift you like wheat. The most powerful force of evil in the world was going after Peter personally. You think that matters? Think he's good at what he does? You don't know that. You have no idea. And he said the third thing is you have no idea what you would have done in the same circumstances. No. So you want to judge them? You have no right to do it. You don't know the answer to any of those 3 questions. So again, the natural tendency in a message like this is to think about who's done this to you. And you probably have a list of people that pop in your mind easily. You did something they disagreed with and judgment was fast. And you were treated like a leper. But here's what I want to ask you to spin it around on. Who's blown it in your life that was a friend that you didn't judge, but you stepped into their life when they needed you the most and communicated, hey, I don't know what's going on, but you're still valuable to me. I'm not going anywhere. Who have you done that for? Now, I'll give an example of that in a little bit, but for now, that's what I want you to think about. If you want to be a great friend, don't judge them. Value them. Tied directly to that one is obviously this one. Don't reject them. Offer them your acceptance. Don't reject them. Offer them your acceptance. And these two are tied together. The reason that woman felt like a leper is because judgment had already taken place. And once I've judged you and I've put myself above you and labeled you, I am justified in anything I want to do to you. I want to never talk to you again. I want to treat you like a leper. It's justifiable because of who you are as I've labeled you. That's why these are connected. The moment I've judged you, I get to reject you. That's why judgment is so disgusting to God. Judgment and rejection go hand in hand. And again, like I told you at the beginning of this point, this message really, really, really hurt to write, and it's hurt to go through. I'll be really glad in a short time when this is done. Because this stirs up a tremendous amount of pain from my past. I had a friend once for 10 years. One of the best friends I have ever had in my life. I loved this man. The moment we met, the first time, I'll never forget, he met him in church, and we stood after and talked for I don't even know how long. We stood outside the building, we just hit it off like that, and we became close friends. We would have dinner together, we would talk on the phone together, we would email and text, and I genuinely loved this man, and he loved me until 2009. All of a sudden he stopped coming to church, and so it wasn't unusual. Sometimes people get busy, and so I reached out to him. I called, no answer, wouldn't take my call, wouldn't answer, left messages for him. I wrote him a card. I sent him emails. And to this day, I have never heard from him. I have no idea what I said or did that was so horrific that he just decided that he should never even speak to me again. I have no idea. So when I read that, when we read that verse, a friend loves at all times, you see why I struggle with that? Doesn't seem like it. And many of you know that pain. But Jesus is our example of how to do this right. If you want to read something interesting, read the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They tell the life of Jesus and the choices he made. One of the things you know that he did right away, if you know anything about the stories, is that he chose 12 men to be his disciples. These men were total screw-ups. If you've read, none of them were particularly smart. Not very many of them had much faith at all. They constantly misunderstood Jesus, disobeyed Jesus. Here's what they were like, literally. One day, in front of Jesus, the King of Kings, they got in an argument about who among them was the greatest. I'm not making that up. Can you imagine that argument in front of Jesus, the King of Kings? You're like, yeah, I'm better than all you guys. No, I'm better than all you guys. You guys think you're good, but I am the tops of the good. I mean, all you 12, you're like 11, 10. I'm number 1. They got an argument about who the greatest in front of Jesus. That's what these people were like. So one day, Jesus just totally let them have it. Actually, he didn't do that. One day, Jesus sat the 12 down, and he said this to them. You didn't choose me. And the next few words are the words of acceptance. I chose you. By the way, do you know that those 3 words are the very first words that God would want you to hear today? The number one thing I think God would want you to hear today is, just so you know, I choose you. Because some of you weren't chosen for a lot of things in your life, but the God of the universe chooses you. Imagine what impact that had when they're sitting in front of Jesus and he says this to them. Then he goes on to say, not only do I choose you, I've got a great purpose for your life. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. And by the way, I want to bless you. Make your life so great that my Father is going to give you whatever you ask in my name. And all because I choose you. Completely flawed, really not all that bright. And he says, oh, you're the ones I want. I choose you. So here's a little insight about any friend you are ever going to make, all right? Using Jesus as our model, I promise you, no matter who you become friends with, they will be flawed. And they'll screw up. And they will say stupid things, and they will do stupid things. And sometimes you will listen to the words coming out of their mouth, and you will think, are you even listening to your own words? They will do that. It's who they are. It's all humanity. And that's when we model Jesus. A friend loves at all times. And we look at him and say, I choose you. I choose you. Those are the words of acceptance. One of the most amazing examples of this I have ever seen in my entire life really showed me how little about friendship I know. Years and years and years and years ago, there was a family who came to our church, the church I was a pastor of, and one day, this man was arrested. And I guess there's no real way for me to tell the story without telling you he was arrested for child porn. Now that's a pretty emotionally reactive sentence, right? I did what so many of the people around me did. Never spoke to the man again. A while later, another one of my friends was talking, and that friend stayed in contact with the guy all through his jail time and when he got released. I was blown away by that friendship. By the way, I think that reflects a little better the sentence, a friend loves at all times, than my behavior. That blew me away. It never even dawned on me to write to the guy in prison. Never even dawned on me to give him a call. And do you know who's going to have a more positive impact on that guy's life for his future? Me or my friend? Do you know that the Bible says that it's God's kindness that leads us to repentance? Did you know that? It's not his cruelty or his anger or his wrath. It's his kindness that leads us to repentance. Can you think of anything kinder than when one of your friends has completely blown it for you to step into their life and say, I'm still here. I still choose you. Can you imagine what that does to a human being? You want to be a great friend? Or you want to have great friends? You have to be a great friend. Who are you going to offer this to? Letter C, don't be jealous, but celebrate their wins. Third thing, don't be jealous, celebrate their wins. You ever have a friend jealous of your success and things going right in your life? Hurts like crazy. I read the story of a woman who lost a friendship because of this. She said when they became friends, they were both at the same kind of economic level, but then all of a sudden her husband started doing a lot better and they started being able to afford nicer trips and nicer clothes and nicer things. And as her success went up, her friend became more and more bitter and jealous. She said eventually the relationship ended. Because it is miserable for you or for your friends if they're winning and you're upset about their winning. It's not what they need. The Bible actually commands us to rejoice with those who rejoice. Celebrate their wins. One of the most amazing examples of this in the Bible is the story of Jonathan and David. So if you don't know this story in the Old Testament, God had made a man named Saul the king of the nation of Israel. His oldest son was a man named Jonathan. So when Saul died, the prince would become the king. But God said to a little shepherd boy named David, I'm going to make you the king. It's like, wait a second, Jonathan's the prince. He's going to be the next in line to the throne. But God said, nope, I'm going to break that line. You're going to be the king. Now, you would imagine, as news got out about this, that Jonathan would hate David, because Jonathan was going to be the next king, not David, and now everybody knows that God anointed David. And yet, instead, incredibly, when David and Jonathan met, they became best friends. It's a great story of love in the Bible. You ever have that? You ever have a friend in your life that the moment you met them, something clicked? You ever have that? I have. I've had people, the moment I met them, I absolutely loved them, and we became lifelong friends. Well, at least so far in my life. So, I mean, you have that. That's what happened in the Bible with David and Jonathan. Now, the problem was Jonathan's dad, Saul, wanted to kill David because he wanted his own son to reign. And so he's constantly trying to kill David. And one time, David was running for his life was falling apart. And look at what a good friend does. Jonathan went to find David and encouraged him to stay strong in his faith in God. By the way, that's what great friends do. When they see your shoulders drooping because of some overwhelming problem in your life, they step into your life and they encourage you to stay strong in your faith. So great friends do. And he said to him, don't be afraid. My father will never find you. You're going to be the king of Israel. And look what he says. I'll be next to you, as my father Saul is well aware. What tremendous love. Like, yep, you're going to be king, not me, even though I'm supposed to be. You get to be king. I'll just be right by your side, cheering you on. Now, isn't that an amazing demonstration of love? Friends, when you love them at all times, it means you love them even when they're winning and you're losing. And you're not intimidated or jealous of their success. You're grateful. So again, some of you have had this happen in your life. Don't want you to think about that right now. I want you to think about who around you that you would consider friends, things are going good for them. Have you in any way found yourself being jealous of their wins? If you have, then you need to, what the Bible would say is you apologize to God for that jealousy, and then you apologize to them, and you rejoice with those who rejoice, because that's what a great friend would do. One last one. Now, there's those mystery slides that I was looking for earlier. All right, great. Totally put them in the wrong place. All right, letter D, don't walk away, forgive them. Don't become bitter. Don't become vengeful. Forgive them. Now, the Bible is so clear about this. It says in Proverbs 17:9, overlook an offense and you'll bond a friendship. Fasten on to a slight and goodbye, friend. You want to lose your friends? Then when their flaws hit you, hold a grudge. Because you'll lose all your friends that way. Because they're all flawed. Oh, by the way, so are you. We're all flawed. You're going to need them to forgive you, so you better be willing to offer this to them. Overlook an offense and you move on. Now, not that long ago, I did a message on how to forgive when you've really been hurt, so I'm not going to really cover those details again. You can go to YouTube again, look my name up, and then watch that message if that's what you need. But again, what I really want to ask you to think about is, have any of your friends really dinged you lately? Have they said or done something that really hurt you? Right? Then are you in the process of talking to them or forgiving them? Or this verse actually says, overlook an offense. Do you know sometimes you don't even need to talk about it. You can just forgive them for what they've done and move on. That's a nice sound. So, good answer. Is there someone that you need to forgive? Is there a friend that's hurt you recently that you need to say something to? Or, I'm sorry, overlook the offense. That's what you do, and you bond the friendship. Now, I started with that quote early on about, you want to know who your friends really are? Blow it. Do something they disagree with. Have a crisis in your life, and you will discover who your real friends are. You'll know real quick. So if you know anything about the story of my life over the last year and a half, pretty much so many things have gone wrong. I was not perfect in all of it, but the things that were said and done were horrific. The rumors that were spread about me were just so damaging, and the friendships I lost were so damaging. And in the middle of all that, I discovered who my true friends were. I learned who really loves me at all times. One time, a few weeks into the whole gigantic mess, two of my friends called me, and this husband and wife, and they said, can we come over and sit down and talk? And of course, you never knew what was going to come out of their mouth. But I trusted these people enough. I said, yep, come on over. And they sat on the couch, and some of their opening words to me were, we don't know anything about what happened in your life. Don't know at all. Frankly, even if everything all of them are saying about you is true, it doesn't change at all how much we love you and what we think about you. And it just floored me. And I was looking at two amazing friends that day. That's what friends do. They love you at all times. They love you at all times. Now, some of you are sitting here today, and if you're honest, you don't have very many close friends. Some of you live in that isolation corner, and it's destructive to you, and it's not at all what God has planned for your life. So, if you're in that corner, like I said earlier, there's a simple way to begin. Start having some people over for dinner. Just have some people over for fun. Make it simple. Don't lock into any kind of long-term thing. Don't say we're going to spend the next 12 weeks studying the book of Mark. Just start small. Have some people over that you like. And then, if you still like them after the first dinner, have them back again. And after you're sure that there's a connection there, then make it something that's going to go on for a long time. And you'll have to prioritize it because in this busy world, it'll fall away. It'll be the first thing you cut, is your friendships. But a day will come when you will face a crisis that overwhelms your ability to handle it. And if you have those people in your life, you'll make it through. And a day will come for them when their lives will be overwhelmed. And if they have you in their life, they'll make it through. It's what we need. If you have close friends, then on the week of Thanksgiving, I encourage you to write them a note. Tell them how much you appreciate them. Spend some time this week thinking about what you can do to show them how grateful you are for them in their life, or that they're in your life. And think about these 4 things that we've talked about. Are you really communicate that you value them? Are you saying the message of acceptance, I choose you? You're celebrating any of their wins? Do you need to forgive them for anything? Make sure you keep those relationships strong. Now again, the thing that gives me the most hope is despite how people treat us in this world, Jesus never will. When it says that a friend loves at all times, do you know that in the New Testament, one of the coolest things that happens because of Jesus coming is that He, the God of the universe, now calls you His friend through Jesus. Isn't that amazing? God is offering you friendship. It's a verse in the New Testament. And oh, by the way, if you let Him be your friend, then you get that promise. This friend will love you at all times. He will love you when you screw up, when you blow it, when you do the worst thing that you've ever done in your life. That friend will love you at all times. Let me have you bow your heads. His friendship is something you can receive at any moment. The Bible says that when Jesus was here on earth, He came on a rescue mission for all of humanity. He was here to die and to pay for all that we've done that's wrong. All the things that have cost us friends in the past, things that we regret and are ashamed of in our past. Jesus knows them all and paid for all of them on the cross. And then He rose again and He offers friendship and forgiveness and love to any human being that will simply receive His offer. And you have to make this choice. It's not a matter of knowing it. You have to choose to receive His gift. And maybe that's where you're at today. You need to make this choice. He responds to faith. And all you need to do, with your head bowed and your eyes closed, is say something like this to Jesus. Say, Jesus, I'm turning to you today. I've heard that you died for me. That you paid for everything I've done that I regret from my past. So I choose your friendship today. Please forgive me. Come and make your home inside of me. Give me your gift of forgiveness. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, thanks so much for coming. Hope to see you again in a couple of weeks.